Irakli Alasania is here. He is the defense minister for Georgia, the Republic of Georgia. Thanks very much indeed for coming into our World Update studio. We're going to talk about the relationship between Georgia and Russia, which you say can and should improve. But let me ask you for your opinion about this increasing, well, if not Cold War, it's pretty chilly, isn't it, between Russia and the US?
Well, I wouldn't call it the Cold War, but from our standpoint, from our region, if United States and Russians are talking and engaging and there is more communication between them, is better for everybody. So this is why I was always supportive of the improved relationship between these two superpowers. I was always supportive of the initiative that the Obama administration came from the very early of their first term. So I'm pretty sure that there are ups and downs in these relationships, but generally it will move in the right direction.
But from a US point of view, from the point of view of the US Congress, what's happening is Russia is participating in what essentially is an abuse of human rights. The Magnitsky Act is about this lawyer who died in custody, denied, so it said, medical treatment that he desperately needed. And there are other examples too. So it does look, from a US point of view, and you have a big US audience listening to you at the moment, tell them why Russia isn't potentially a pariah state.
Well, I'm the defense minister of Georgia, and 20% of my land is occupied illegally by the Russian forces. And tell me about Russia. Of course I know what is happening what is happening inside Russia and how it's developing, but we have to be pragmatic. From my standpoint, with the new government that was put in place after the fair and free election in Georgia on October 1st, we think that we need to have more pragmatic relationship with Russia. Yes, my land is occupied, and we are working hard with the international community to make Georgia closer to the European Union, make Georgia part of the Euro-Atlantic community. But at the same time, my Prime Minister, Bidzina Ivanishvili, is working hard to make workable relationship with Russia. And we are talking now with Russia about trade. After WTO membership of Russia, we think now our businesses have to have the same opportunities on Russian market. So it's, very complex environment, complex relationship, but of course human rights abuses are there. And we are always, as a country, actually outspoken about this. And remember, we were attacked by Russia. We went in war with Russia, and the sovereign state of Georgia was occupied by Russian forces. So this is, of course, a very politically sensitive issue for us.
What does pragmatic mean? You have a personal stake in Abkhazia, don't you? I think your father died there.
Yes, my father was killed by the combatants there in '93.
Does being pragmatic mean abandoning sovereignty over Abkhazia and South Ossetia, which is another rebel territory from the Georgian
absolutely not. Pragmatic means that, for example, vis-à-vis Abkhaz and Ossetians, we need to demonstrate to them that Georgia and Georgians want to reintroduce themselves. It's a new environment. We want to make sure that Abkhaz and Ossetians understand that in a democratic society, in the European democracies, together with Georgia, they will be better off than staying under the Russian occupation. And this is why we need the space within this confidence-building measures and dealing with Russia through the pragmatic means, trading with Russia, turning down the rhetoric, the military rhetoric that was part of the previous government's actually attitude towards Russia. This gives us more space to do this. So this is why we want to make sure that we don't give any pretext in future to Russians to be aggressive against Georgians. This is the pragmatic position. Whether it's going to work, it has to stand the test of time. But I think there's no alternative, because while you're not talking with them, you're increasing ever-presence in the air of the escalation with Russian Federation forces, which, as a defense minister, I don't want to have. I want to have the army that will be deterrent, but I cannot have the army that is going to resolve the problems that we have with Russia, territorial problems, to the military means. We declared that these conflicts will be solved only through negotiations, and you cannot solve these problems unless you negotiate and talk.
What is the border like at the moment between South Ossetia and Georgia? Is it eyeball to eyeball, tank barrel to tank barrel?
I would say we are fortunate to have on our side of administrative border the European Union's monitoring mission. And we're grateful to the European Union to extend it, and hopefully they're going to extend it and more. So we have international eye on the ground, and it's the only deterrent that we have at this point. But we're very seriously concerned that the Russian occupying forces are not letting European Union monitors on the other side, which is the mandate of their, and the scope of their mandate. So hopefully with this decreasing tensions rhetorically between Russia and Georgia. After we're going to start trading with them, after we're going to start commuting with them, we have over 1 million Georgians living in Russia, and their faith is something that we're concerned about. We think we're going to have more opportunities for Russia and Georgia to go in future, because we have historically had a good relationship with them. There was always the part of hate and love relationship, but we are pragmatic. We have 135 million nuclear country as our northern neighbor, and we need to deal with them.
And one of the things that worried them, and which was in the background of the conflict that broke out, was the fear that Georgia was going to become a NATO nation. And there was a lot of talk about that.
Sure.
President Saakashvili gave that impression very strongly. That's what he wanted. Georgia became a partner for peace, as it's called, in NATO.
Oh, we are more than that. With new government that sent another battalion in Afghanistan.
Right.
After
So
the election.
does pragmatism, sorry to interrupt you, does pragmatism mean abandoning that ambition?
Absolutely not. We were declaratively saying that our path into Euro-Atlantic community, we're going to be part of Euro-Atlantic community. That's what we are doing every day in Afghanistan on our relationship with NATO. But it doesn't mean that we have to go to war with Russia. This doesn't mean that we cannot have manageable, workable relationship with Russia. Russia didn't want Baltic states to become the part of NATO, but it happened. So I'm pretty sure that we're going to fulfill our foreign policy and security objectives, and also at the same time be pragmatic with Russians.
Irakli Alessania, thank you very much indeed for coming in. Keep in touch, please. We'd like to know how you get on with what has been a very difficult relationship, trying to warm things up.